Hey, good morning and welcome back to How Did I Get Here? Right? It's our weekly session of How Did I Get Here? Right? No matter what business you're in, but really in sales, I've always had those months, those quarters where I thought I was blowing my number out of the water, and all of a sudden I didn't even come close to my number. Like, how did this happen? And then there was those months where I didn't think I was going to make it, and boom, it just happened. And there's a lot of things that happen to make that happen. One of the things I want to talk about is journaling. Journaling is something I did, and the reason I got journaling, and I want to share with you guys my journaling program. But the reason I got into journaling is when I was first hired out of college, I was hired by this company called Kirk Tyke. They were the inventors of the postcard. This company is a couple hundred years old. They actually had four-color postcards before four-color printing was ever possible. And this guy, Kurt, would go around on a train, take pictures, come back, and then he'd have 100 ladies with paint by numbers, and they'd paint in the black and white pictures. Anyways, I get hired by them, and I had half the United States. And I got to be honest with you, it was a dream job. I was supposed to get in my car, and I would drive. And I would drive and drive and drive. So I would drive to Sandusky, Ohio. I lived in Chicago. I drive to Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And I'd go there and sell them our postcards, sell them on postcards of taking pictures and what have you. And if I got that, then I'd get a local photographer. We'd take some pictures. I'd mail that back to the office. I'd get in my car. I wouldn't drive home. Maybe I'd drive to Sandusky, Ohio. I'd do the same thing. I'd find some places. Then I'd drive to Buffalo, New York. Then I'd drive to Pittsburgh, then Virginia. So I'd spent 6 months on the road. Interesting. I got to see um, every, not event, but place, traveling place that you'd want to go to. A cave, Six Flags, when nobody else was there. And I got to see this. So that was quite a good couple of years that I did that. But then when I got hired from another job where they like double, tripled my money, my problem is that I was used to getting in a car and driving for 4 or 5 hours and seeing one customer. And so, because I didn't have a playbook, they didn't give me anything. I'd get in my car, I'd drive maybe to South Chicago or somewhere, take an hour to get there, see one customer. Boy, that was a great day. And then maybe drive all the way back to North Chicago and see another customer. And so no one really helped me understand that my past behavior, which was great in that job, was not good in this job. And I only did that I learned that and I started journaling so I can look at what I did in the past and does it fit what I'm doing today when times change. So we're going to get into that. But the other thing I want to talk about is what kind of got me here. One of my favorite things I don't think people talk about too much is networking. Do you network, right? I was always a big networker because I hated cold calls. I'd much rather go out and meet people live. I always thought I was better live, and network. And so there's a couple things you got to look about networking groups. There's several different ones. There's association groups, which are great, as long as it's your customers' association, right? Go to your customer's lobby and look at the magazines they have in their lobby, the industry-specific magazines. And you'll probably find there are associations that create those magazines, and they have monthly meetings. Join those. You can join as a sponsor, but you can join and go to those monthly meetings. There's Chamber of Commerce. There's all different types of structured and unstructured. There's even homegrown networking groups. Give you a shout out to two homegrowns that I think are fabulous if you're in Dallas, Fort Worth. One is Bill Wallace's Success North Dallas. Success North Dallas meets the third Wednesday of every month, 7 a.m. I think they start at 7:30, but get there at 7 because they're great. There's normally probably 150 people there. And Bill started this probably, Bill, you have to correct me, 10 years, 15 years, probably 15 years or more ago, just as a place for a couple guys to get together for coffee. And this has grown and grown and grown. So there's some homegrown ones. And by the way, Bill has a great speaker every month. Great place to network and great place to learn. Everybody there wants to help. There's another one called the First Friday Book Synopsis. This is with Randy Mayu, and he does an interesting thing at the Park Cities Club on the first Friday of every month. Once again, get there at 7 a.m., starts at 7:30. But he does Cliff Notes of the latest business books. And you can find them both on the websites. I think the book synopsis is 15-minute book business books. And so look that up in Dallas, and then Success North Dallas, you'll look that up. They'll welcome you, just walk in there if you want. Yes, it costs money, you got to buy breakfast, but go there, enjoy. But those were ones that were homegrown. So you can homegrown your own. There's a local sales, get a couple salespeople together and get together of salespeople that sell to the same customer. So how much do you network, right? So think about the types of networking. There's structured, unstructured, right? Just show up and talk to people. And then there's some very structured ones. In structured ones, give you a couple ideas I like doing in structured ones. In structured ones is where you're sitting at a table and they say, okay, everybody's got 1 minute around to do their 1 minute commercial. Very structured. I always try to be the leader of the table. And I know this is strange, but I always try to be the leader. And I show interest. So I'll ask, all right, you go first. Give us your 1 minute. I let everybody go over their time. Because most people will go over their time. So I let everybody go over their time. And when it gets to me, time's up. And it's interesting. I can't tell you how many appointments I've made from 2 or 3 people that even time's up and we're done, that sit around the table and say, Tom, you never told us, about you. And that's when I use my 30-second commercial, which we've taught you many times. Typically when I talk to business owners like yourself, they're concerned about 1 or 3 things, A, B, and C. So if you're going to network, number one, got to have a great 30-second commercial, right? But use it sparingly. Don't use it that often. Don't be going up at everybody and spitting out your 30-second commercial. So there's a couple things I want you to do. First of all, before a networking, you got to set your goal. What is your goal? I've always said in networking, it's either 7 o'clock in the morning, maybe at lunch or dinner or a cocktail, right? And I've always thought to myself, do I want to get up at 5:30 in the morning, work out, and then go to this thing? Or do I just want to save myself an hour of sleep and just get to the office? Well, I'd much rather save myself an hour of sleep. Or conversely, if it's an evening one, would I rather go home and be with my wife and enjoy her company at 5:30? Or do I want to go to the Holiday in downtown Dallas at 5:30 and spend an hour or so there, 2 hours, and then get home at 8? What would I rather do? I'd rather go home and sit with my wife and enjoy her company. But if I really want business, I got to do this networking thing. So before I do any networking event, I do a little research, who might be there if I can find out, and I set myself a goal. I always have a goal before I do any networking thing. Have to have a goal. And my goal, it would be either to collect 5 business cards of people I don't know that I could possibly do business with, and or maybe set 3 appointments. Not necessarily solid 1-hour appointments, but phone appointments to talk further. So I always set one of those goals. And I'll tell you what, there were times I'd go to a networking thing at 5:30, and by 6 o'clock, I'm in the car on my way home because I got my number, I got my goal, right? Did the right work. And I'm going to talk about that. And there were times, of course, when the thing was over at 9 o'clock at night, and I'm still sitting there talking to the Holiday Inn bartender saying, hey, you ever think about getting into sales? So it's worked both ways, but you got to have a goal, because I don't want to go to this thing and still have to make a lot of calls, right? So that's before. During, the one thing you got to do during a networking thing is stop worrying about yourself. Leave your business cards at home, right? Stop boasting about you. It's about finding out what other people do. You're really there to discover other people, not to tell people about yourself. Because in reality, if I'm there, there's a couple things I want to figure out. Number one, is this networking event, this monthly association meeting, is it worth my time every month? The only way I know that is if I meet people there and I find out who's all there, right? Not just one or two people, as many people as possible. And then the other thing is I'd like to get an appointment, or I'd like to at least meet people, get business cards from people that I could do business with. So during the networking thing, I'll sit there and I'll meet as many people as possible, and I'll go up to people and say, what do you do? And I listen to them. Even when someone comes up to me and says, hey, what do you do? Right? I always say, not much, what do you do? Nobody's ever said, hey, Tom, I asked you first. They all tell me about themselves, which is great, because that's what I want to know. I want to know if I want to spend time with you or not. That doesn't mean I walk away from somebody, but I've had those networking things where I met somebody, wow, what a really friendly guy, and I'm that personality where I love talking to people, and I could talk to this guy all night long. Oh, he goes golfing like I do, and I can spend all evening with this guy, and then at the end I find out that he's out of work, right? Wasted an evening. So my goal is to find out what they do, and that's your goal. What do you do, right? And then at the end, after the networking event, don't wait 2 weeks to call me or email me. That morning, that next morning, that evening, if I met you and I've got your business card, when I get home, I'm emailing you. Hey, Tom, it was nice to meet you. I'm going to follow up with you next week. If you can grab 2 or 3 minutes with me, and maybe we can grab some coffee, right? Because if I wait a week or 2 weeks, you're going to go, who's this guy again? I forgot. So that happens immediately. And then I'll leave a voicemail, right? Because I don't want to be a pest, but I'm still not selling. So that's what I want you to do during those networking things. And then the other thing I want you to do, right, is learn to pivot, right? And it's a couple mean by pivot. Pivot, I mean, how do I get away from somebody that's stealing my time, that can't do business with me, or is not the right person? Nice person, I'd love to talk to him in a social meeting, but right now, my job is to find 5 business cards of people that could possibly do business with me, right? So what I'll do is always say to somebody, what do you do? And so even if there's a group of 3 or 4 people, I'll take my cup of coffee and I'll kind of edge in to start listening to them. And they'll all talk to me and they'll enter me into my group. That's what we're all there for. And somewhere along the line, someone says, what do you do? And I say, not much. What do you do? And I'll go from all 3 people. And there's one person I might want to talk to. But I learned to pivot. In other words, getting trapped with somebody that can't do business with me. So first thing I do is I have a half a cup of coffee, maybe a quarter cup. And if it's a morning event, always have a quarter cup of coffee, because that way I can always talk to someone for a minute or two, right? Be friendly and chatty, but then I can always say, hey, I'm going to go get another cup of coffee. And I can go get another cup of coffee and then meet somebody else. Right? By the way, you're also doing the person you're talking to a favor, because maybe they got nervous energy and don't really want to go meet someone new. So you're forcing yourself out of the comfort zone, and maybe them too. If it's a cocktail party, I always have club soda with a lime. That's all I drink, because I can down that very fast and do the same thing and say, I'm going to go get another drink. You want something? And then the other thing I'll use is the bathroom. Sometimes I'll go to the bathroom 4 or 5 times at a 1.5 hour networking event. So I need to learn to pivot, because my goal is to meet people that could possibly do business with me. It's just like when you do a cold call. I always say, when I do a cold call and the person that's willing to talk to me is probably the person that can't buy my stuff, right? So how do I qualify these people fast? So think about that. Get in front of someone. What do you do first? Don't be so willing to tell them what you do. People care about themselves. So sit there and say, so what do you do? And I might find out that you're a salesperson at a company. Person can't buy my product. Have to be your boss or your boss's boss. right? And I could ask that person, so what's good about your sales department? What could be better? What's broken? And I can find out a lot about this person's sales department to see if they need any sales consulting or sales recruiting or sales training. And if they do, I could get this guy to perhaps introduce me to a sales manager or to the owner, and or just give me their phone number and email introduction. Hey, any way you can do an email introduction to your boss, and maybe we could have a conversation. So think about this as you're networking. Think about, number one, what are you doing ahead of time, right? Pre-networking, get that plan out. What's your goal and what are the networking groups you're going to? What are you doing during the networking? Make sure you're not sitting with people you know. Always find people you don't know. When I go to a networking group with my employees, the rule is we can't sit together. You all got to sit at different tables. So always sit with someone you don't know. Always ask, what do you do? Care more about them than you do yourself, right? And then follow up. So I hope that's helped you a little bit today with networking, how to move forward with networking. I think that if we do it correctly, you'll have a great time with it. You can have fun with networking. So just do it right, not waste the time. Until next time, I'm going to get you some information on journaling. Email me, tom@salesmadeeasy.com. If you have any questions, I think it's in the links below. More than happy to help out. And next week, we're going to be talking to the head of sales of Leslie's Pools. This lady is head of sales of the retail division as far as all the other people. The week after that, we're actually meeting with the president of a very large liquor distributorship, a couple $2 billion. And after that, we have a person that actually sold his business to Motorola. So we're going to have these interviews lined up, and it'll be very interesting. So stay tuned. We'll see you next Thursday, 8:30. Have a great rest of your week.